स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna. Let us pray to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us bow down to Him and pray to Him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic, the concept of yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna has given the philosophy of life, how one should practice disciplines and follow dharma. Then one can really not only enjoy the life here, but also he will attain liberation. So all the yogas which Lord Krishna has given us in the Gita are the paths to liberation, moksha marga. So when Arjun was down with depression, confused about doing one's own duty, Lord Krishna removed all his depression and inspired him to live a heroic life, constantly remembering him and performing his duty so that he will not incur any sin. At the same time, his life would become glorious. So, it is very nice for us to study in depth this Yoga Shastra and apply it to our daily life. Lord Krishna teaches in the chapter 2, Yogastaha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyoho samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Lord Krishna is clearly telling to establish oneself in yoga, to perform all the actions, casting off all attachment and remaining even-minded both in success and in failure. So this evenness is called yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Evenness. How can we attain that goal? There are many ways to establish oneself in evenness. One way is called the path of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is generally, all of us have to understand, since we are engaged in some kind of karma every day. So if we know the technique of doing karma, then it becomes yoga. Karma becomes yoga when it is associated with spiritual ideas, and when a person is living a life of righteousness, then karma paves the way to liberation. The concept of karma is many-sided. Religion commonly provides moral and ethical guidance. Bhagavad Gita gives guidance to perform one's duty without attachment to the fruits of action. One's station in life tells one many important things about one's duties. For example, suppose you are a student. It means you should be a good student. You are a son or a daughter, brother or sister, a parent. Then fulfill these roles well. Suppose you are an employee, a citizen, then do a good job and exercise intelligent patriotism. Of course, there is more to say about dharma and about karma, but these indications about the content of duty are enough for a beginning. The way to perform your duty is even more important. It is common to do the right thing because we fear the consequences of not doing so, or because we are motivated by desire for the good consequences that we can expect will come back to us from the faithful performance of our duty. Desire for success and fear of failure drive many of our deeds. The karma principle affirms that the universe will respond to you in this life and also in the next. Your good deeds will not go unrewarded. Being aware of the ultimate reward, it takes a certain reorientation to act without being attached to these fruits of action. Discover what it means to act without attachment to the fruits of action. Karma means action. Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko mataha. A person has to perform his or her duty, sacred duty. That is dharma. One is to act because it must be done. He performs his duty as perfectly as possible and at the same time offers the fruits to God or humanity or family or whomsoever. It is like giving something to your beloved. You choose the best. If you prepare a room for your special guest, you take care of every minute detail, saying that it is absolutely clean and beautifully decorated. You enjoy doing it, but not for your own personal sake. You are really interested in your most beloved guest. And that's why you are doing everything so nicely. And you love to do it and you enjoy in doing it. But your own mind will know the motive. As a spiritual seeker, you must be true to yourself. Annad bhavanti bhutani pajjanyad anna sambhavaha yajñād bhavati parjanyo yajñaha karma samudbhavaha. Performing duty sustains oneself, the society and the cosmos. We are all born to act, which is karma. But if our karma, our actions are selfless, sacrifice is born of that. That means your karma produces the greatness of sacrifice. And because of that sacrifice, the elements become happy and rain pours down. From yajna, rain comes. Now you know why there is drought in many places. There is not much sacrifice in people's lives. And from rain what happens? Food comes. And from food begins all the beings are created. So your actions should be sacrificial. By your sacrificial actions, nature becomes beneficial to you. By that, you get abundance of supply. Food is not necessarily food that goes through the mouth. Here it means food that sustains you in every way. So, for human sustenance, selfless actions that produce sacrifice are important. Lord Krishna says, if I stop doing, the worlds would perish. I would confuse all species and cause the destruction of all creatures. The unenlightened do things with attachment, wanting some results for themselves. An enlightened person does things with the same zeal, Arjun, but without attachment, and thus guides others on the path of selfless action. Just as an ordinary person performs actions with selfishness, the enlightened one also does things but without selfishness. The only difference, the ordinary person does things for his or her own benefit. The enlightened one does things for others' benefit. The performance of actions for others is in no way inferior. In fact, Lord Krishna says the selfless person should even act a little more carefully and more efficiently than a selfish person. A yogi is acting for everybody's sake and should do a little better job. Sometimes the attitude is, since I am not gaining much from this action, it's mainly for others. It doesn't matter how I do it. I will just let it happen. Probably Lord Krishna knows this attitude is part of human nature. So he says, don't think that because you are acting selflessly, you can get away with something haphazard. In fact, you should do a better job. Oh, who is a yogi? he who performs actions skillfully and efficiently. Why? Your interest is to serve others. So many are going to be benefited by your action. You should do a better job. If an ordinary person doesn't do a good job, then only he loses. But if you don't do a good job, imagine how many people will lose. A wise person will not disturb the mind of an unwise person who is still attached to the fruits of his or her actions. But by continuously performing selfless actions, the wise person influences others in all they do. At one point, Lord Krishna says, even though at a certain point the need to perform actions naturally drops away, a realized person should not stop doing things. He gives himself as the example. See, Lord Krishna says, I am Krishna, an incarnation. There is nothing for me to gain in this world. There is nothing I should gain by doing anything. But still I work. Why? If I don't, others will say, he is not doing anything, so why should I? So not working must be the sign of realization. Suppose a small child asks his uncle, who is that man with something hanging around his neck? The uncle says, he is a doctor. There's a stethoscope around his neck. Then the child says, uncle, I want to be a doctor too. Buy me a stethoscope. So it's easy to copy. That's why teachers do things that actually there is no need for them to do. But in order to lead the people, in order to show the exact way to go, they do. It was not really necessary for Sri Ramakrishna to practice all types of sadhanas. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna himself said, even 1/16 of what I have done, if somebody does it, he will attain liberation. Sri Ramakrishna did practice all these austerities and various types of sadhanas in order to teach the people, in order to guide the people, in order to make the people understand the validity of all different paths. So he did practice himself, and then he proclaimed the truth. As many faiths, so many paths. So, for leading a person, it is necessary that one should follow certain things for the benefit of many. So that's why teachers do things that actually there is no need for them to do. Their actions are not for their own sake, but to set examples for their students. If they stop doing these things, the students will immediately follow their example. That's why Krishna is saying here. And he is also basically answering the question, how should we work if we are not doing it for personal gain, but just for the sake of others? Should they be grateful for what we are doing? Can we do the work any way we want? Lord Krishna says, no, that's not karma yoga then. Even an ordinary greedy person will do things well for his or her own benefit. We should do things just as well, if not better. Don't think that because it's a dedicated or karma yoga action, it doesn't matter how it is done. In fact, karma yoga actions should be done perfectly, even neater and tidier, because they are offerings. Suppose that every day you simply make a little pudding and bread for yourself to eat. When you expect 100 guests and you are offering them something, would you still do the same thing as you were doing daily in your home? No. You would like to do something special. It is not for yourself. That's the beauty of it. Whatever you do for your sake can be ordinary, but when you do it for the benefit of others, you are doing it for God. So that concept of spiritual ideas must be there in doing actions. That should be a better job, not just equal to what you would be doing in your own home. Lord Krishna says very emphatically, Ashtadadhanaha purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapyaman nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Have faith in sacred duty. One who doesn't cherish faith in this doctrine fails to attain me. He will be returning to this mortal world of death after death. So, one should have Shraddha. Shraddha is very important. It's a very comprehensive word. It means total dedication, full concentration, full focus on what you are doing, and you are doing it with love and tremendous adoration to the divine. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Another important point Lord Krishna teaches, very important for us to know, and that is how one should concentrate upon practicing one's own duty. One's own duty, even though not glamorous, is better than duty alien to one's own growth, however well performed. For even death in doing one's own leads to one's good, while a duty alien to one's growth is burdened with the fear of downfall. What is your dharma and what is somebody else's dharma? What you are truly called to do is your dharma. It fits your aptitude, your capabilities, and your natural inclination. Constitutionally, your dharma, physical and mental, is to walk. But suppose you look at a snake and try to crawl like that, it is not your dharma. It might look cute, but remember, you are created to walk. Don't try to imitate a crawling species. This is just a very rough example, but often we come across this situation. For example, in the name of equality, I must do everything he does. Only then I am equal to him. If he jumps, I should jump. If he flies, I should fly. If he drives a tractor, I should drive a tractor. Only then am I equal. That attitude is terribly wrong. Remember, even science has shown that there is no duplication in creation. No two snowflakes are exactly the same. As such, you are also unique. You have been created unique with certain abilities that no other person can do. That's your swadharma, your individual duty. Find out what your swadharma. Ask yourself, how do I feel when doing certain things? Does something come easily? Is it natural for me, or am I trying to imitate somebody? So first, take stock of your natural inclination and your capability, which is your taste, temperament, and capacity. With some things it is so natural. You are like a fish in the water. You just know, oh, That's what I am meant to do. In Sanskrit it is called your swadharma. But remember that swadharma is different from karma, which is just an action based on selfish interest. Swadharma is something righteous. It is something completely natural to you that you could do to benefit others. That is swadharma. You can't say, my swadharma is to steal. I feel naturally inclined to take something from somebody's pocket. It is to my taste. No. The word dharma always implies the benefit of others. There is no personal desire behind it. Think what your swadharma is and try to do it. If you are an expert cook, that's your swadharma. It just came to you naturally. Very good. Cook for everybody. And you feel joy in cooking for others. In fact, I remember in my younger days, in our home, there would be many occasions where number of people would come for taking food. During such occasions, there was one particular lady who would offer herself joyfully to come and cook for all the people. It was amazing. She would find joy in cooking for so many people, not expecting anything in return. Those are the days how people were truly conscious of their duties and responsibilities. They would love to go and help others. Any function, any marriage function, any system, they would volunteer themselves to go there, ready to help, ready to do any hard work. So, your swadharma may change over the years. As you grow, your thinking becomes different. The swadharma of a baby is to crawl, an adult to walk. It can change, but it just flows. It is not that you consciously decide saying, that's no good, I would like to do this instead. It flows. Even without your knowledge or planning, new things come. You're not planning. They come. Remember that you have been brought into this world not for your job. You have nothing to do here. You have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. You didn't come planned. Did you consciously plan to be born in California in the womb of so and so? No, you were just pushed along. You are brought along stage by stage. You don't have any responsibility of your own. Remember that. You didn't come according to your own plan. You are not going to live according to your own plan. Nothing is in your hands. You have been brought here, and you will be kept here as long as the Supreme Lord needs you. Whoever it is, the minute details are taken care of by the Supreme Power. So, the moment he or she thinks your job is over, all the Divine One has to do is just to turn off the switch. No air will enter your lungs. Finished. The doctors say it is a heart failure. The yogis say he stopped breathing. The breath refused to go in. That's it. Finished. Somebody was pumping the air in, giving oxygen, etc. Then finally he also stopped pumping it. You didn't get the air anymore. It's okay. Just flow. Feel the unseen hand directing you every minute, taking you along from one thing to another. Know that it is always unplanned by you and for the good of everybody. See, it is not, no, the philosophy sustains your life. Otherwise otherwise you will collapse. If anything happens, you will collapse, for which you are not responsible. Unless you have the philosophy, you can't sustain your life. So it's a basic necessity. You must know. Ignorance is no excuse. You can't say, I didn't know. No, you should know it. See, knowing is the first stage. Knowing helps us to practice it. Without knowing, how do you practice? And practice again needs mental strength, strong willpower. All these are required. Without anything, you can't simply say, I knew, but it didn't help me. Surely it will not help you. The practice has to be done from the beginning, not at the last moment. When you are meeting with some crisis, then all of a sudden you think of God. Where is God? Do you think God will jump over you and try to clarify your confusion? No. God's plans are such, the situations will make you or force you to learn if you are not learning in a proper way. One is learning things in a natural way. Another is in a forced way. But natural way is always comfortable. Forced way is always very, very difficult. So, life is like that. There is nobody's life which is very easy. Never. It looks outwardly so glamorous, but it's not easy. And life becomes easy only when you have spiritual orientation. Only when you discuss spiritual ideas and apply them in your life. All the Mahatmas also have undergone tremendous stress and strain in dealing with humanity. And they underwent all these sufferings joyfully because they felt it's a kind of sacrifice. For the sake of humanity, they are not hesitating to undergo any suffering. So that's the point. So philosophy is a must. Without philosophy, man becomes brutal. That's what we are seeing nowadays. How people are becoming more and more cruel, more and more brutal, more and more violent. It is really very nasty. Very nasty. So even though the world is moving with high-tech science, even though people boast of their culture and intelligence, see how people are suffering unnecessarily for their no fault. Recently I have read how a person, how the people were shot in Washington DC. All innocent people who had nothing to do with anything. Some crazy fellow, they did something. Because there is no guidance. People don't want to take guidance because of their egoism, because of their bad association, because of their bad surroundings, bad thinking. They are all like demons of olden times. The demons also used to do the same thing. They would go and disturb the worship of the rishis who were meditating and doing yajnas in the forest. These demons would not tolerate that. They would go and destroy them. They would kill them even. So, in this modern age also we are feeling demons in so many ways. All innocent people, gullible people are just massacred. So, but you must know that nobody can escape the rigorous law of karma. One has to reap one's own actions. Good, good, bad, bad. As you sow, so you reap. So a constant training, constant thinking of the ideas are very important to sustain the life. Otherwise, life is meaningless, really meaningless. Everybody is guided by his own karma gati. You are not responsible for your son or your daughter. He happens to be your son, she happens to be your daughter, that's all. But each one goes according to one's own karma gati. He is directed by his own actions or her own actions. That's all. Anyway, we need to know, that is why the first discipline in spiritual practice is Shravan. Not simply hearing one day. You must constantly hear. That's why you see in orthodox traditional way, we are expected to read scriptures every day. Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. Because constantly reading gives an impact, makes an impact on your mind. And it creates tremendous impression. And so, that's the first step one should know. Hearing. Hearing, and then Sri Ramakrishna says, not only hearing but practicing it. Precept and practice must go together. Without knowing, how do you practice it? So it is important to know. So, but very often, people think some other person's work would be better. That's the tendency of the mind. The other's grass is always greener. Turn the tide of that mentality. That mentality should be corrected. Know that you are wanted. You have been sent here and given special skills. You might think, I don't seem to have any special skill. But you eat and you sleep, don't you? Even these are special skills. Don't belittle yourself. Don't degrade yourself, thinking I am no good. I am wasting my time. I am a burden to people. People go crazy thinking like that. You are not a burden to anybody. If that supreme intelligence thinks that you are a burden to somebody, he won't be wasting his breath on you. The next minute it will be turned off. The switch will be turned off. You are finished. He is no fool to keep you as a burden here and still keep you and put breath into you. There is a famous story in Mahabharata of the pious hunter and the chaste woman, which we see in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. How it highlights the performance of Swadharma. Tremendous it is. These are the ideals for us. If you are unable to follow the ideal, it's your fault. But ideal is ideal. People who follow it, they get benefit. That's all. Once a hermit was disturbed in his meditation by a crow. When he cast an angry glance at the bird, it was reduced to ashes. The hermit began to think himself, I have destroyed the crow by a mere glance. I must have made great progress in spiritual life. So, because of that, some occult power, he thought he got the final realization and he is all powerful, etc. Whatever it is. One day he went to a woman's house to beg his food. He was calling for the food, but the lady was busy. She was very devoted to her husband, and she thought that her duty was foremost at that point, not that should postpone that duty and attend to this man who was asking for food. It doesn't mean that she refused her. It doesn't mean that she refused him. She just said, just wait. So, she was devoted to her husband. served him day and night. She provided him with water to wash his feet and even dried them with her hair. The hermit, when he was knocking at her doors for alms, this lady was serving her husband and she could not come immediately and open the door at once. The hermit became angry. So, in a fit of anger, he began to curse her. Cursing, immediately the chaste woman inside answered from her inner apartments, "Look, I am not your crow. Wait a few minutes, sir, wait. After finishing my service to my husband, I shall give you my attention to you." The hermit was very much surprised to find that this simple woman was aware of his having burnt the crow to ashes. He was totally perplexed. Then he wanted her to give him spiritual instruction. At her bidding, the hermit went to the pious hunter at Benares. Who is this hunter? He was selling the meat. But he also served his parents day and night as embodiments of God. The hermit said to himself in utter amazement, "Why, he is a butcher and a worldly man? How can he give me the knowledge of Brahman?" But the hunter was a knower of Brahman and had acquired divine knowledge through the performance of his worldly duties. The hermit was illumined by the instruction of the pious hunter. So, they got this ultimate realization by performing their duties in a proper way. You must attend to your own duty. The self is beyond action. It doesn't act. It's one's nature that acts. Act with the body only. Nevertheless, action is better than inaction. Indeed, it's impossible not to act. Lord Krishna says, "Anashritaha karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnana chakriyaha." If you do your duties without desiring the fruits for yourself, you are a true renunciate and a true yogi, unlike those who live without sacrifice and devotion. Again Lord Krishna says, "Karmanya karmayah pashyed akarmanya cha karmayah sa buddhiman manushyeshu sa yuktaha kritsna karma krit." It's a very famous verse. The enlightened person sees inaction in action, action in inaction. It's a very beautiful statement. He or she is a yogi and can accomplish everything. It's important to discriminate between appropriate action, forbidden action, and inaction. Please note the three: right action, wrong action, and inaction, or the actionless state. The scholars argue about the meaning of the verse, but the majority think Lord Krishna speaks of what is to be done, what is not to be done, and what is not doing anything. This is explained by Lord Krishna. He says, the one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is a wise person. He is a yogi. Having reached this point, you have accomplished everything you do and at the same time do not. You do not, still you do. You sleep and sleep not. You eat, yet eat not. So on and on it goes. Two different things that look like opposites. But the wise person knows the difference. You see in action, amid all the actions, that means you know there are two different things in the same experience, two sides of the same coin. One acts, the other observes. The observer is the witness. As a witness, you don't act. As an actor, you don't witness. Very important point. If you are a wise person, you take both positions simultaneously. You know who is doing and who is observing. And because you know how to be the witness, then even though your body and mind may be doing things, you know it is not you who is acting. Lord Krishna says, the way of karma is impossible to understand from the viewpoint of the onlooker who sees somebody doing something. The onlooker cannot tell whether the person is acting or not acting. Only the one doing the action will know. This is very deep. To understand karma, one has to rise up to a certain level where it is possible to discriminate between correct action, wrong action, and inaction. A simple example is that of the lotus flower, which blossoms when the sun comes up. When the sun goes down, it closes. Is it the sun that causes the blossom to open in the morning and close in the evening? Ask the sun, why are you doing that? The sun says, I don't know anything. All I know is I am here. I don't even come and go. It is you who says, he has to be doing things, coming and going, accomplishing this and that. Sometimes he may even say he is doing things, but in fact it's nature making things happen. The yogi is a constant witness to it all. That way he or she understands the secret of karma. The yogi perceives action from the state of inaction. At the same time enjoying inaction in the midst of action. This may sound a little philosophical. It is nice to hear, but hearing is not enough. When you reach this stage, where you experience this, then you will say, yeah, now I know what he means. Prakriti, the manifested universe, is controlled by the three gunas. Our minds and bodies are part of that Prakriti, which is constantly moved by these three gunas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Balance in restlessness and inertia. But who are you really? You are the self, Atman. You are the knower. You are not affected by Prakriti. You are completely different. That's why you say, my mind or my body. When you say, my mind has been disturbed, you are really right. It is not you, but your mind that is disturbed. But if you immediately add, and I am really unhappy about it, that's not right. That's not the real you. But you insist, I am unhappy because my mind is disturbed. If you were unhappy, you wouldn't even notice that your mind was unhappy. And an unhappy or sick person can't recognize another unhappy or sick person. Only the sane person can discern if another is insane. If your very knowing itself were unhappy, you wouldn't be able to recognize the unhappiness of the mind. This means your knowing is always sane. For you are the knower, the awareness. You are aware of everything that is happening in your body and mind. This awareness never ceases to be. That is the constant, eternal, permanent you, the self. But unfortunately, you usually identify yourself with the mind or the body and talk in those terms. I was happy, I am unhappy, and so on. The true you which is the self or Atman, doesn't do anything. The Prakriti you, nature operating through the mind and the body, does it. Here is the action and the inaction at the same time. Even though I, as mind and body, did this action, I, as self, Atman, didn't do it. I did it. Certainly, I didn't. That means two eyes are there. Two eyes. The true I, the Atman, knew that my little I, body-mind, did this action. Even though you see me, body-mind, acting, I, the Atman, I am not acting. Just my mind and body are doing. See, inaction in action. If you can keep this in mind, which is surely very helpful, even when you feel depressed, you can just pull back quickly and ask, who is depressed? Certainly it is not me. I know someone is depressed. Who? My mind. Why? Well, I told it not to do all that mischief. What can I do for it now? See how quickly you can separate away from identifying with your mind. It is very handy. You will never get lost. You can rescue yourself from drowning in wrong identification. The very moment you separate from it, the agony is gone. It is like turning off the main switch. You become a person witnessing. There's a famous incident highlighting this point. Swami Chidananda ji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, he was talking about the master to his disciples. It was night, 9 o'clock. After the talks were over, all went to their rooms for sleep, and Swamiji was alone in his room, preparing himself to go to take rest. But suddenly he was attacked by asthma. It was severe. It was very severe. He could not breathe properly, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to breathe, and he felt probably in this condition he may not live at all. Any moment the body may burst because I am unable to breathe. Such was a terrible crisis he was facing. Immediately he thought, well, why should I bother about this? Let me separate myself. So he disidentified himself. It is not a fiction, it's a thing happened. That's what I am telling you. He immediately withdrew himself from this system and totally withdrew and immersed himself in his true self, the witness. That's all. The whole night went off as if nothing happened. Next day morning, all the brahmacharis and other brother monks came to offer their pranams to Shivananda Maharaj, who was the president of the Ramakrishna order. It was usual custom to inquire, Swamiji, did you have good sleep yesterday night? Then he disclosed all the details. Yesterday night, this is the story what happened, he told. Yesterday night, this is the thing happened. Severe asthma attack, so I decided to disconnect myself with the body. And the whole night went off smoothly. It's just like coming inside and outside the room. It was not a theory. He did it. And all the brother monks and monks, they were all stunned and they were very happy to see Swamiji. His face was beaming with joy. So, if the true witness was not there, he would not have dissociated himself with the body and mind. If he thought he is that body and he was that mind, he would have died. So, many instances are there like that. Since Swami Turiyanandaji also, he had some boil on his back, some tumor. And the doctors came and examined and found it was cancer. You know, those days, there was no operation theatre or any anesthesia, etc., etc. It was too terrible. The doctor came, sir, I have to cut open, I have to remove this tumor, otherwise it's dangerous. It spreads over the whole body. He told him, he has brought the knife to cut off. And Swamiji said, well, give me a few seconds. And in that few seconds, what he did? He dissociated himself with the body. For all purposes, he is looking with his eyes and is as if nothing has happened. He is just seeing it as if something is happening to somebody. He is thinking himself, his body as somebody. And the doctor cut the tumor with a knife without any anesthesia those days. He did and went. After 2 weeks he came again to check, to examine him. He was just examining and began to do something more for where he wanted to cut off something more in that area. Suddenly Swamiji shouted with pain. Why, Swamiji? Why are you shouting? That day you are calm like Himalayan mountain and now you are shouting. What happened? Look, that day you told me that you are doing this and I prepared myself for that. Today I was not prepared. You just simply come and you began to put your knife. So, that's a very nice example. Very nice example. And it is really so. It's a fact. Even with pain also. You burn your finger. You feel the pain. Then quickly take it from the fire. Then inquire, pain, where does it come from? Who is complaining the pain? Who got burnt? Who knows that? As you start analyzing the pain disappears. Of course, one must be a very strong person with a strong willpower. If he says there is no pain, there won't be pain. But when you identify with the body and mind which experience the pain, you are in agony. The minute you separate from it and start analyzing, it no longer affects you. If you get this point, it's very useful in day-to-day life. There is no need to get lost in all the ups and downs. Follow Lord Krishna, who acts without needing to act. Action is the source of all. Action leads to maturity and to liberation. Actions have consequences. The universe responds to you sooner or later according to the quality of your actions. Action unenlightened gives rise to impressions, which give rise to desire and aversion, which cause action, a cycle involving rebirth. Karma is a store of good and bad actions accumulated over many lives. And it is this store of actions that binds one to phenomenal existence. What is the right basis for action? Without attraction to the fruits of action, one is to be established in discipline with one's mind on the eternal spirit itself. One should delight in the infinite spirit, Brahman, the omnipresent, impersonal, ultimate reality. Delighting in oneself, one doesn't act from a drive or need. It is in fact possible to attain realization of the infinite spirit by contemplating action. Many virtues are manifest in right action. Fearlessness, purity, determination in the discipline of knowledge, charity, sacrifice, study of sacred lore, penance, honesty, non-violence, truth, absence of anger, disengagement, peace, loyalty, compassion for creatures, lack of greed, gentleness, modesty, reliability, brilliance, patience, resolve, clarity, absence of envy and of pride. All these things have been listed by Lord Krishna in chapter 16. Be free of desire and anger, always content and independent, indifferent to success and failure, pleasure and pain. Be hostile to no creature. In general, do not be emotionally involved with your action, but be established beyond the level of material emotions. What is the supreme religious motivation for action? Being devoted to God in loving worship leads to the performance of one's sacred duty. God is the basis of eternal sacred duty. Follow Him. All actions should be surrendered to God. Leave the consequences to God. All actions should be done as a religious sacrifice. So always feel you are the instrument of God. The moment you think the nature of God and the things you are doing for the sake of God, then you feel everything turns out very good and you'll be able to make corrections in your life and you'll be able to purify your heart and attain freedom. So, Karma Yoga is also a moksha marga, a path to liberation. But doing karma in a proper way is important. Karma doing with the right attitude paves the way for liberation. If you don't have the spiritual connection, you are bound to be in bondage. No matter how many births you have taken, no matter how many sufferings you have undergone, no matter how many losses you have incurred, there is no way. It is like bottomless pit. So, karma done in one way binds you to the world. Karma done in another way releases you from the world. So karma is gateway, both ways, either to hell or heaven. Hell means suffering, heaven means liberation. So decide yourself. Do you want liberation or do you want suffering? You can't simply point the finger to somebody else. That won't help you. Never. So you have to help yourself. You have to raise yourself. Uddared atmanatmanam atmanam amasadayet. Atmeva hyatmano bandhu atmeva ripuratmanaha. You have to uplift your mind by yourself. Somebody else will not come and uplift you. They may guide you. They may inspire you. But you have to act. If you don't act, who is responsible? So to have the benefit of experience, you must act in a proper way. So try to know what is right action, what is wrong action, what is inaction, what is action. Accordingly, you organize your activities. Not simply doing in a haphazard way. Thinking everything what you do is an act of dharma. That won't help you. If it is an act of dharma, then it should result in acquiring the divine qualities. In the name of dharma, if you are committing violence, hatred, anger, it cannot be called dharma. That means there is something wrong in your doing things and something wrong in your understanding. So you have to correct properly, and that needs holy association, and that needs constant thinking, that needs sincerity and willpower. Then everything will become okay. So Lord Krishna has given all these things And it is for us to adapt it, to practice it and experience it. Thank you. It would be nice if you attend these retreats. It will clarify you more and more. As I said, constantly you must think of these ideas along with your activities. Then only it keeps you in good shape. And another important announcement I am making, that is, we are planning to move to Chicago suburb. We are exploring good site for building Sri Ramakrishna Temple Universal, and parking facilities for all the devotees, Holy Mother Cottage, everything, all the facilities should be in one place so that the devotees should feel free to come and be in the program without any problem. And Sri Ramakrishna's Temple Universal, the idea is very unique, because this idea was conceived by Swami Vivekananda himself. In his letter to Alshinga Paramal, Swami Vivekananda has predicted Sri Ramakrishna Temple Universal will come in America. And I was surprised and amazed to see how that concept has been materialized now. That idea has come to us, and this idea is already there, Swamiji has predicted. So it means it is God's will that Sri Ramakrishna's temple should come. Not that it is not like the other usual temples where rituals are prominent. This is Jnana Mandir. This is a temple for disseminating spiritual knowledge. It is temple for spiritual knowledge. Adhyatma Mandir. Adhyatma Vidya. The spiritual knowledge is the highest knowledge that one could cherish. So, it is under this spiritual knowledge one really can live in peace and harmony. Sri Ramakrishna is coming in a manifested way now. First he came through Vivekananda. Now he is coming himself. So, it's the greatest ideal, and it's very important for us to see how it is done very successfully. So we need all the help and cooperation from all the friends and devotees in this regard. Feel proud to be part of this spiritual activity, which is Swamiji's work. We are all doing Swami Vivekananda's work. It is not our personal work at all. So, it should be like a beacon light. So everyone should try his best to see this project comes through well. The Temple Universal. This word is coined by Swamiji himself. We have named it as Universal Temple, but now I am changing it, because Swamiji's words is like a mantra. He has predicted Sri Ramakrishna Temple Universal will come in America. So let us see how we become part and parcel of this theme. Everyone should try. Everyone should try. I know you have got so many duties and responsibilities and so many ways you are helping in so many ways. It's perfectly true. We don't deny it. Because you are helping, because you are generously serving, so we are requesting to extend your service to this project also. So those who can afford to contribute more for this project, they are more welcome. Consider this as worship. It's meant for all, and this temple is for all people. It's not secluded temple. It's not meant for only a particular community. It belongs to the humanity. That's the meaning of temple universal. It belongs to humanity. All the human beings are welcome to offer their worship, to learn the spiritual knowledge. So with these announcements I conclude my talk. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He guide us, may He nourish us, may our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.